Lumora City's annual junior sprint was 3 weeks away, and the posters were everywhere. On tram stops, on school bulletin boards, in the bakery window near the park. Every kid in the city was talking about it. But only one name kept coming up over and over as the one impossible to beat.
Mia had run every day since she was 5 years old. She ran because it made her feel like the world was cooperating with her, like gravity itself had agreed to be her partner. When she ran, her light, that vivid, electric green, blazed brighter than at any other moment in her life. Running was how Mia understood herself.
But Rico was something else. He'd won the sprint 4 years in a row. He trained twice a day, ate by a coach's schedule, and had a technique that kids described in hushed, awed tones on the playground. When Mia first saw him run across the park, she felt something new move through her chest. Not quite fear, but not quite confidence either.
She signed up anyway because that's what Mia did. She signed up and then she figured it out. She told Key over lunch, "I'm going to win the sprint." Key looked up from his sandwich. "Against Rico?" "Against everyone," she said. And the way she said it, green eyes bright, made Key believe her, almost completely.
Training started the next morning before the sun was fully up. Mia ran the park circuit alone, timing herself on her watch, pushing just past the point where her lungs wanted to stop. Leo, who was her loudest supporter and worst training partner, showed up on day 2 with a stopwatch and an energy bar and a conviction that he was being enormously helpful.
At the first practice session on the official track, Mia was third fastest. Rico lapped the circuit smoothly without apparent effort, like water finding the fastest path downhill. He didn't trash talk or brag. He just ran perfectly, and that somehow made it worse. Mia shaved 8 seconds off her time by the end of the session. She needed 12 more.
Leo watched from the stands with Key and ran the numbers in his head. "She's getting faster," he said confidently. "Like, noticeably. The gap is closing." Key watched Rico float across the track like the rules of physics were optional for him. "How much is left to close?" "A lot," Leo admitted. "But she's Mia. She's going to figure something out."
What Mia figured out was this. She couldn't run like Rico. She didn't have his stride length, his 4 years of specialized training, his relationship with the track that came from obsessive repetition. But she had something he might not. A light that burned from genuine love of the thing, not just from the need to win. The question was whether love was enough.
One evening, running the park circuit in the last light, Mia stopped in the middle of her run. Just stopped. Stood in the center of the path and looked at the city lights coming on around her. Luna, who was sketching nearby, looked up. "Why did you stop?" "I needed to remember why I started," Mia said. "I almost forgot. Running felt like pressure instead of joy."
Luna put down her pencil. What does it feel like when it's joy? Mia thought for a long moment. Like the only thing that exists is the next step. Like my whole body is doing exactly what it was made to do. Luna nodded. Then start there. Run from that place tomorrow. Not toward winning, from joy. See what happens. Mia looked at her, then started running again.
Race day arrived on a Saturday with perfect weather. Cool air, thin clouds, that particular quality of morning light that makes everything feel possible. The track was already full by 9. Parents with cameras, kids from every school, the city's little banners fluttering along the lane markers. Lumora City had turned out to watch someone win. Everyone expected that someone to be Rico.
Mia stood at the warm-up area and felt the full weight of what she'd signed herself up for. Her legs felt good. Her breathing was calm. But every time she glanced over at Rico, relaxed, methodical, unreachable looking, that feeling from 3 weeks ago came back. Not fear, just an honest assessment of the distance between where she was and where winning required her to be.
Leo found her before the start. He was wearing a green t-shirt he'd made himself with MIA's crew on the front. "You ready?" "No," she said honestly. "Good," he said. Ready means you think you know what's going to happen. Not ready means you're paying attention. She blinked. When did you get wise? I've always been wise, Leo said. You were just too fast to notice.
The gun fired and the pack surged forward. Mia went out fast, faster than her training, faster than her plan, carried by the crowd noise and the pure animal surge of the moment. By the first bend, she was in fourth place, Rico 2 steps ahead in second, the leader already pulling clear. The race had its own logic, and she was inside it now, completely.
At the halfway mark, Mia was third. Her lungs were burning in the good way. The way that meant she was actually running, not performing running. She found something in the rhythm, that place Luna had described where the only thing that exists is the next step. She was closing. Not enough, but closing. She could feel Rico ahead like a kind of gravity.
Then, at the far turn, something went wrong. A girl in lane 3, small with orange running shoes, went down hard. A stumble, a gasp from the crowd, and she was on the track, hands and knees, the other runners streaming past her on either side. Mia saw it happen. Her legs made a decision before her brain had finished processing the question.
She veered. 3 steps off her line, she was at the girl's side. "Can you stand?" The girl nodded, face tight with embarrassment and pain. Mia pulled her up by the arm and felt the whole race streaming past them. 4th, 5th, 6th place runners, all the positions she'd worked 3 weeks to earn. All of them gone in a 10-second decision. She didn't regret even slightly.
The girl's name was Priya. She was 7 years old, running her first race. Her knee was scraped and her lip was trembling, but she was standing. And when Mia took her hand and said, "Run with me, okay? We'll finish together." Priya looked up at her with an expression that Mia would remember for the rest of her life. Pure, uncomplicated trust. They crossed the line together, last among the finishers. Priya in her orange shoes, Mia in her green, hand in hand. Rico had already won. The trophy was already being photographed. But when Mia and Priya came through the finish line, the crowd noise changed. Something different moved through the stands. Not cheering exactly. Something quieter and more permanent.
Mia expected to feel disappointed. She'd prepared herself for it on the way to the line, bracing for the sting of last place. But standing there, breathing hard, Priya still holding her hand and beaming at her parents in the stands, what she actually felt was so far from disappointment that she almost laughed. It was something closer to complete. Like she'd run exactly the race she was supposed to run.
Leo was through the barrier before security could stop him. That was... You stopped. In the middle of the race. I know, Mia said. You lost 4 places. I know. You're last. I know, Leo. He looked at her for a long moment, then pulled her into the worst hug she'd ever received. Bony elbowed, too tight, completely sincere. That was the best thing I've ever seen, he said quietly. Don't tell anyone I cried.
Rico found her afterward, trophy under his arm. He'd watched what happened from the finish line. He stood in front of her for a moment without speaking, which was unusual for someone whose confidence Mia had always found slightly overwhelming. Then he said, carefully, "I've won this race 4 times. I've never done what you did today. I don't know if I could."
"You'd figure it out," Mia said. He shook his head. "I don't know. When I'm racing, the only thing that exists is winning. I've trained it in so deep, I'm not sure there's room for anything else in there anymore." He looked down at the trophy. "I think I need to think about that." He left. Mia watched him go and felt something she hadn't expected. Concern for him.
That evening in the park, Luna had brought her sketchbook. She showed Mia what she'd drawn during the race, Mia's face as she made the decision to stop. "This is your light," Luna said, pointing at the rough sketch. "This is what it looks like when it's completely on." Mia looked at the drawing for a long time. "I didn't even think," she said. "That's the point," said Luna. "That means it was real."
Priya came with her parents to find Mia the next day. She had a small bouquet of daisies and an earnest expression that Mia suspected had been practiced in a mirror. "I finished my first race," Priya said very formally, "because you stopped." Mia crouched down. "You finished because you got back up. I just ran beside you." Priya nodded, satisfied. "Will you run with me next year, too?" Mia smiled. "Every year."
Key couldn't stop thinking about it. He asked Mia on the tram ride home, "Were you scared when you stopped?" She thought for a moment. "No, I was just clear. Like, this is the thing. This is the actual thing." He nodded slowly. "Do you think you can train that? Being clear about what matters?" "I think," she said carefully, "that you train it by doing it. Every time."
There is a kind of winning that looks exactly like losing from the outside. It happens when someone does the right thing at the cost of the measurable thing, when they choose a person over a position, a connection over a record, a moment of humanity over a moment of victory. From the outside, it looks like last place. From the inside, it feels like the only real first place there is.
Mia signed up for the next year's sprint that same afternoon. She was going to train hard. She was going to try to win. But she'd learned something about herself that couldn't be untrained. That her truest, brightest, most alive self wasn't the one crossing the finish line first. It was the one who didn't hesitate when hesitation would have cost something real.
The city newspaper ran a photograph the following week. It wasn't Rico with his trophy. It was Mia and Priya crossing the finish line, hand in hand, last place, both their faces wearing something that didn't have a sports page name for it. The caption read, "What winning looks like in Lumora City." Mia cut it out and kept it. Rico asked for a copy.
At the night market that weekend, Leo found Mia at the dumpling stall and handed her a small trophy, plastic, from a craft store, with "Best Human at the Sprint" written on it in marker. She burst out laughing. "You spent money on this." "I spent 3 hours on it," he corrected, injured. "Read the base." The base said, "First place in the thing that actually counts."
Lumora City races are still held every year. Rico has won most of them. But the one everyone talks about, the one parents tell their children, the one that got hung on the community board and stayed there for 2 years, is the one where a girl in green stopped in the middle of a race to pull someone in orange shoes back to their feet. Second to last. Perfect. There are 2 kinds of strength. The first kind is what gets you to the finish line fastest. The second kind is what makes you stop when stopping costs you something. Both kinds matter, but only the second kind changes what happens in the years after the race is over. Mia learned this the day she ran her worst race and her best race at exactly the same time.